And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho. Today we'll be talking about Sunspot 2775 on the late Sunday edition. Pardon the lateness, and this one will not be streamed live to Twitch. This is a YouTube and BitChute exclusive. Here's the sun to start things out, looking at 94 angstroms. We see a sunspot 2775 down here in the south, an active region rising in the northeast, and a coronal mass ejection that missed the Earth. Here is the composite colorized magnetogram in 171 angstroms view. You should be able to see the date stamps there as well. And let's go out to Lagrange point 5 to view from this angle, aka from stereo A. And here you'll see this small coronal mass ejection. That is, according to the way it looks on LASCO, C2 and C3, going to miss the Earth by a lot to the northwest. So we did actually stream while that was unfolding yesterday. Here's a quick peek at the fields and the 304 angstroms full disk view. A good view of the north and south pole coronal hole regions. Let's do some custom HelioViewer movies. Here's the LASCO C2, C3, and 304 angstroms. Next, we've got just the 304 angstroms view close-up. And this is Sunspot 2775. It's got a leading South Pole umbra, actually a couple of them, and some trailing North Pole umbrae, which make it a cycle 25 sunspot. It's not very big, and the sunspots aren't super well defined. We'll be keeping an eye on it. By the way, thanks to everybody tuning into the live premiere. We are likely viewing with a lot of you, about a dozen probably at the moment. Here's 171 angstroms. And these umbrae are actually spaced out a bit. There's quite a bit of a linear distancing there between the two different polarities, and a series of umbrae there. Not very big, but beta class nonetheless. So that's a little higher probability of producing things like solar flares and coronal mass ejections than if there was only one polarity. And that is a cycle 25. The radio flux is up to 74. And for those of you new to the channel, the radio flux is a similar measurement in solar activity to sunspot number. So you can see the way cycle 24 and the way all solar cycles since 1947 have followed sunspot number and radio flux quite closely. It's a measure of the radio output of the outer corona. And next we're going to look at the KP index here. The KP index is a global measurement of geomagnetism, and we've seen a weak magnetosphere over the past 3 days. There's a 3-day graph having been only at a KP 1 or 0. We haven't seen any major solar flares come out of those sunspots, and the likelihood is going down for a couple days, and then if it remains intact, going back up, and it all has to do with the way sunspots emit radiation. We won't get into it. If you know why sunspots are black, or if you have a plausible theory, leave us a comment below the video. Or perhaps go post at smashomash.com/forum in the cosmology or heliophysics forum. We don't see any proton strikes. Let's look at the real-time solar wind. We just saw an increase in the solar wind density, which looks a bit like a coronal hole wind stream arriving, having jumped up from about 10 to about 20. So the solar wind density doubled there very quickly. And that happened at about 7 o'clock universal time. And then we saw the solar wind speed dropping down at that same moment, possibly an indication of a coronal hole wind stream arriving. No surprises there. Current solar wind speed very low, 287 kilometers a second. Let's see if that bumps up. Today we're going to look at 2 different magnetosphere movies from space. First, the density. And you can actually tell when a high density solar wind shows up based on this view. can see the way the area around the magnetotail gets compressed by that plethora of protons, whether they're at a high speed or not. So they're low speed but a high density. And here's the pressure, which is fairly even as a result of the combination of the low speed and high density. That's 4 hours of data. It's the Space Weather Modeling Framework. It's courtesy University of Michigan, and we hope the data is archived soon to the point where we can access it. It is just a visualization and a model. Again, the current solar wind density, well above where it was yesterday at 17.65 protons per cubic centimeter. Here are the ground magnetic perturbations, and since we're living through a geomagnetic excursion, we cover 4 hours of data on this daily. We've got 2 North Poles, and the South Pole has left the Antarctic continent, nowhere near the geographic South Pole, and is now in the southern Indian Ocean. There's the last 4 hours of data on that. GOES magnetometer has seen some pretty wild variations here, going all the way from low 80s nanotesla all the way up to 120 nanotesla, where it is now. And let's see if we can get any insight into that, into that magnetometer stuff by looking at the top view ecliptic plane field plot, part of the National Sunspot Observatory. It's one of the best forecasting systems that we have for solar activity, and I've made all kinds of forecasts that have come true using the top view ecliptic plane field plot. We could snap into the North Pole current sheet at any moment here, although it's unlikely for the next 12 hours, I would say. We've got a significant plasma buildup right in this area. Let me bring up the last frame here to show you what I'm talking about. Oops. Let's try that again. There we go. So there's actually, you can see a little bit of coronal mass ejection has happened there as that's reduced density. For example, if the sunspot increases in its power right now, sunspot 2775, we could suddenly snap into the North Pole current sheet, and that's evident where the orange lines are shown. This also shows you stereo A and stereo B at Lagrange points 5 and 4 respectively. Here's a line of sight field plot. We don't see big changes in the B field yet, shown in blue. The B field is a field that goes through the magnet. And here's the magnetic field plot of the corona, the sun's atmosphere. And it's looking a little bit wild here. There's a little bit of indecisive activity going on. Is there interaction between the closed field force lines of the south solar polar field and the coronal hole shown in purple? I wouldn't be so sure, but it's an interesting graphic nonetheless. Now today's daily space lights is not going to have a smash space. Today's daily smash space is not going to have space lights. Wait, you know what I'm saying. No, seriously. Today's daily space weather is not going to have a smash lights segment because we're going to do it entirely separately. So please make sure you tune into that. It could be interesting. It could be annoying. Who knows? But we'll get to it momentarily. And we're going to talk cosmology. We're going to talk about the smAsho.com/forum. We're going to talk about making America not suck again. Maybe consider picking up a shirt. You can link to it at smashomash.com. In the smAsho store or the Smash store, there's a bunch of merch in there, as well as an affiliate link. We might happen to bring up COVID for a quick moment because it doesn't seem to go away. By the way, check us out at twitch.tv/smAshomash as well. We're going to have a short cosmology segment. There will be a featured massive radio source. You might see something cringeworthy. And you see some links. You'll see some references. By the way, if you enjoy the content, please press like and subscribe on YouTube. Please share with your friends and your foes, your science noobs and your science pros, as we've got all kinds of different news crawler services and so on, and different playlists We even forecast the future, and it seems to have happened quite a few times. Here's one of many, many examples. We'll explain that later in the Smash Light segment. We're going to talk about
overreach.
We're going to talk about
reach around.
Yeah, we're going to talk about overreach and reach arounds. We're going to talk about the forum. We're going to talk about smashomash.org, where you can see all of our social media links. Please check that out if you haven't. It'll all be featured on the Smash Lights. Let's get back to space stuff. Next thing we're going to talk about is the Van Allen belts. How many electrons do we have out there? We'd like to look at electron density. Why? Well, there's a very good reason, folks. It affects your GPS satellites. And we like this graphic from NASA here, as it shows you sort of the relative altitudes of things. It's a nice graphic. It gives people an idea of what it is we're talking about when we talk about electron flux. Here's a one-year graph of the greater than 2 mega electron volt electron fluence. It can cause charging hazards and GPS errors, so we monitor it. And the forecast was actually off here a little bit as we saw the electron flux crater, and that is a result of the extremely high proton, well, not extremely high, but the doubling of the proton flux. So I'm not going to get into induction or the generation of the Earth's geomagnetic field in today's Daily Space Weather video. That would be for a cosmology segment, or perhaps a geospace segment. Maybe we'll do a video all about that. Maybe we'll find a geologist who doesn't have his head up his... All right, and here's the total electron content forecast, and we see a low level of electron flux. You should have pretty good GPS performance here. We do see some anomalies there over the Middle East and northeastern Africa at nighttime. Otherwise, pretty normal situation. Here's a visualization of just the ionosphere, courtesy of the Bureau of Meteorology of Australia. And the ionosphere is looking quite charged up here ahead of the sun's side in the southern hemisphere and so on. So a little bit anomalous there. Let's bring up the latest image. We don't want the video to be too long, as we've got a second one to produce, with all kinds of thrills, spills, dashing prizes, and smashing smashes. There's the current image, 12:15 Universal Time. It's actually light out. We see the local yellow dwarf on the in-the-sky.org star chart. My favorite star, as well as my favorite planet, Venus. If you're up before dawn, you may see that and the moon. Here's what's going on in the solar system. There's where things will be in a week. Please leave a comment if you think Frito-Lay is trying to take over the galaxy, or just the solar system. Looks like the largest quake of the past 24 was a 5.9 magnitude near Easter Island region at the South American subplate / Pacific plate boundary. We did see some deep quakes kicking off, and I actually got some insight into one of them. I figured out the source of one. In the meantime, here's a 4.8 deep quake at Vanuatu. Here's a 5.4 at India. And we're just going to let the list scroll up here. Deep quake at Puerto Rico. Shout out to Peter Schiff. Drop me a line. Here's one at Japan. It's a 4.1 magnitude at nearly 300 kilometers. Son of a bee. Here's another 4.1 at nearly 400 kilometers. So that one kicking off, the first one kicking off at 4 o'clock Universal Time this morning on 10/11. The second one kicking off at almost exactly an hour later, 55 minutes later. Farther south and about 100 kilometers deeper. Interesting. Perhaps some foreshocks happening there in Japan. At least buildings are generally well made there in Japan. Next, last but not least on the list, is a 4.7 at 153 kilometers at Indonesia. So a couple deep quakes kicking off. Here's some insight into the quake we covered yesterday in New Zealand. Now this is retired world champion sprinter Eddie Dawkins and his wife. I said, did you dudes feel that earthquake? It was at a depth over 100 kilometers. Don't be surprised if it was a foreshock. Turns out he was doing a deadlift at the time. So apparently that deep quake caused a 4+ magnitude earthquake at over 100 kilometers depth. That must have been a heck of a deadlift. Well done, Eddie. Let's check out volcanoes here. As Karimsky's been exploding and producing a 6,000-foot plume of ash, Popocatépetl dispersed its ash, as has Fuego Sangre exploding as well. 20,000-foot ash plume there. Revenador exploding. Flight level 150, 15,000 feet. Sabancaya exploding, flight level 240. It's a 24,000-foot plume of ash. Please do not be an ass and attempt to pole vault the caldera. You may become part of the lithosphere. And that is unhealthy and not good for our viewership. Next, looking at the weather.gov map, we see a lot of red flag warnings. Everything's otherwise pretty relaxed here. We see some flood warnings also in the south from hurricane remnants. I just wanted to cite something here on Minds.com. Over 2 years ago, I was citing the fact that we were well over 2 standard deviations above normal snowfall in the winter of 2017 to 2018. See that blue shaded region there is the 30-year average from 1982 to 2012. And you can see how much snowfall happened. That was actually, I believe that was the largest of the past few winters, although we were 2 standard deviations above normal snowfall last year and the year before as well. So 2017 to 2018, 2018 to 2019, and 2019 to 2020 all featured at least 2 standard deviations above normal snowfall for the Northern Hemisphere. And we have been on top of it the whole time. That's why, part of the reason why we have a channel. Next, shout out to our, since we're doing meteorology, our African and European viewers. There are your water vapor maps. Here are the water vapor maps for you Far Eastern and Fremunda types. Again, shout out to Eddie Dawkins. We hope your running is going well, and please do not cause the mantle to be disrupted with your deadlifts. Here are the water vapor maps for the Americas. Here are the jet streams of the Western world. Check out this anticyclone here in the North Pacific. If anybody has a name for that chosen, please leave it in the comments. We like to name anticyclones after CNN anchors. Not that anticyclones are totally irrelevant, but CNN anchors are, so it's fun to name anticyclones after them. And remember, folks, they rotate counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere. Here are the jets of the eastern world. Here are the pressure cells. There we go. Let's advance that. We'll let that go into tomorrow around noon. It's getting late. There's where things will be as late as 1 p.m. tomorrow. Major low pressure area there in Arctic Canada. Windy.com has a great mobile app, by the way, folks. Check it out sometime. Next, looking at lightningmaps.org. To see quite a bit of lightning there across the Atlantic. As well as Mexico and the Caribbean. Here's the NASA GOES Lightning Mapper. It's a new feature on the Daily Space Weather. How about a U.S. Doppler radar map? Another value-added feature here at the Smash News Network, which, by the way, is on fire. Please consider contributing, becoming a patron, something like that. Visit the links at smashamash.org/smashamash.com and help us to extinguish the fire of non-funding. By the way, I'm modeling the Smasher Price My First Pandemic shirt. Here's your U.S. Doppler radar map. Lots of rain falling in the southeast. Here's what's going on in the cloud layer. There is a rotating low here in the southern Gulf. Looks like not a lot of moisture there. And indeed not. And it's not very strongly rotating either. There is another rotating region there, though. Huh. And that will be the spot for today's water vapor close-up. It's a significantly counterclockwise rotating system, but it's lacking sufficient evaporative processes here. And one more little close-up here of the Mid-Atlantic states. Shout out to our local viewers. And for you new viewers who are not aware where we're located, we are located here in eastern Pennsylvania in the Lehigh Valley. Anyway, there's the water vapor scenario for the Mid-Atlantic region. I heard some rain in the forecast for Pennsylvania. Thanks to our patrons, a true source of funding for the content. If you want updates before everybody else and all kinds of information nobody else has access to, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/smAsho. Thanks once again to our patrons, the true source of funding for the content. Look for changes coming to the website soon. Visit our links, visit our social media links. Check us out on whichever your preferred social media source is. I think Minds is the future of social media. Check out our affiliate link. We've actually got a featured product today. It's not the UV wand. Oh, no. No, it's not the UV wand. Today's featured product is... Wait for it. We gotta let it load. Just give it a second. All right. You can reach all of this stuff. It's a shopping list at smashomash.com/affiliate. One of the things that we'd like to do is we like to make sure that people have their houses in order. One of the ways to get your house in order would be, well, I mean, you should own PPE, right? Today's featured product is Garnier Hair Care Fructis Sleek and Shine Shampoo, 33.8 fluid ounce bottle. I think it's eligible for Prime. I think we got free shipping on it. Keep in mind, prices are subject to change. You never know who may be standing behind you during a photo op. Make sure your hair is Joe Biden ready with Garnier Fructis. That and many other products available at smashomash.com/affiliate. And hey, Smash team, thanks for tuning in. Please don't forget to share on your social media. Thanks for flying American Smashways. Today's featured shirt is Smasher Price, My First Pandemic. Now, again, I'm wearing the shirt because we don't really advertise things that I don't personally use. So there you go. Smasher Price, My First Pandemic. Shout out to Granddad for going out in public yesterday wearing this exact shirt. The gold Smasher Price, My First Pandemic shirt. He didn't even bring a mask with him, but he did indeed wear a mask on his chest. There's the design. I'm wearing a black one. Thanks for flying American Smashways. Please keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane, since we've got bonus features. We're going to do the 335 angstroms 48-hour SDO video to show you the life cycle of Sunspot 2775 mainly. We're going to show you the colorized magnetogram once it loads. And we're going to show you the intensitygram to show you the current mode of those sunspots. And there you can see the main umbrae there. Here's the south polarity umbra. Here's the north polarity umbra. A classic beta class sunspot. A little bit of magnetic mixing happening there. It could be preparing to release some solar flares. Some active regions rising there in the east as well. Here's the intensitygram. An extreme close-up. Whoa! And they're not very defined umbrae, but there are quite a few of them, especially on the North Pole trailing region. Here you go. Here's a... And here's a 335 angstroms SDO video. We are out. It's about that time for me to vanish. Thanks for tuning in. May that solar wind be at your back and that covidiousy absent from your locale.